So it's this strength in our core business that will fund our investment in tomorrow and therefore into the second part of our corporate strategy. Selling cars to individuals has been at the center of our retail business model today and will remain at the core of our business for quite some time. But we also need to be prepared to engage with our customers beyond that, beyond the idea of just selling them cars, so that we want to make sure that we're in position that when they think about mobility, they think about us every single step of the way. We are investing very, very heavily to define the future of personal mobility in the areas of connectivity, car and ride sharing, autonomous driving, alternative propulsion, and of course, all of the new technologies that are required to underpin those developments. General Motors is already the leader in the connected vehicle space. And this isn't something that we just decided to get interested in the last few years as some sort of bright new shiny object. We've led for 20 years in vehicle connectivity with OnStar, and OnStar has responded to more than 1 billion customer requests over that time. So think about that, 1 billion times people have pushed that blue OnStar button over the years. By the end of 2016, we will have more than 12 million OnStar connected vehicles on the road, 12 million on the road. We already have more than 2 million 4G LTE connected vehicles, so broadband capability vehicles in Europe, Asia, and here in North America. By 2020, we expect that more than 75% of the vehicles we sell globally will be connected. And that's really important because as we look at consumer behavior, we see a very clear trend where customers are willing to wait for the right vehicle with the right level of connectivity before they make their purchase decision. And we're seeing increasing evidence of that every day. Another area where we are leading is in the way of alternative propulsion. So what do we mean by that? We offer many propulsion alternatives today to our customers: gas engines, diesel, CNG, electric, and we're making a lot of progress on fuel cells as well. Today, we are currently intensely focused on electrification. We believe that in dense urban areas, electric vehicle penetration could exceed 50% by 2030, and so we intend to be in position and are in position to take advantage of that opportunity. With every succeeding generation of electric vehicles, they become more and more affordable and accessible. And as we develop and fine-tune the technology, the costs, including the battery costs, continue to come down. The new generation Chevrolet Volt extended range electric vehicle, I think, is great proof of that, with improved range and performance, and it will soon be joined by the Bolt EV that I mentioned earlier, delivering more than 200 miles of range at a very affordable price. Another space that we've invested in significantly is in shared mobility. Today, some 20 million people use some kind of shared mobility already, and we expect that that number could easily triple by the end of the decade. Particular focus on people living in urban environments. Earlier this year, we launched Maven, a new brand that covers our car sharing programs in Germany, China, Brazil, New York City, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Boston, and of course here in Ann Arbor in Michigan, the place where we launched the program. We've also invested significantly in the ride-sharing space with our new strategic alliance with Lyft that we announced in January. Lyft is the fastest growing rideshare company in the United States today. And we're working with Lyft to create an integrated network of autonomous on-demand vehicles. In March, we announced the acquisition of Cruise Automation, a company that is developing and testing autonomous vehicle technology today in the city of San Francisco. And acquiring Cruise brings some really deep software talent and capability inside of General Motors, and we think will significantly accelerate our progress in the area of driverless vehicles. Studies show that by 2030, about half the vehicles sold will be highly autonomous, have some kind of autonomous capability, and perhaps up to 20% will be fully autonomous, where no driver intervention is required for the full trip. Near term, autonomous technology will have the biggest benefit when it's combined with ride-sharing. So autonomous technology on the one hand, deployed into a ride-sharing type environment. And that's why we're working together with Lyft to develop exactly that kind of network. So with the Lyft Alliance, our Maven car sharing brand, and now Cruise Automation, we think we have all of the pieces of the puzzle necessary to be successful. Autonomous technology will make transportation safer and more accessible. There are hurdles to overcome and significant collaboration with governments and regulations ahead of us. But once those challenges are addressed, autonomous vehicles present a tremendous value, offering consumers the ability to work or relax while commuting, and while commuting in a much safer way than they are today. And that may seem like a long way off, but it's coming faster than you think. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of today's dynamic automotive industry and what General Motors is focused on right now. We've invested in strategic partnerships, acquired new talent and capabilities, and have created new business units inside of our company. We are the only company that has assembled all of the necessary ingredients to win. Decades of leadership in connectivity, significant investment in ride-sharing and autonomous technology, as well as the industrial scale capability and the know-how to mass-produce vehicles. And we have created quite a disruption inside this 100-year-old car company, and I can assure you that it is just the beginning. Along the way, we will continue to put the customer first in everything that we do. And we will continue to seek the help and teamwork of our partners, like the City of Detroit and the state of Michigan. As much as we at General Motors intend to be at the forefront of this kind of change that I've described, the state of Michigan, as the birthplace of the automotive industry, should be right there as well. Michigan has a great opportunity to lead and an opportunity that it must seize. We encourage the state to take the necessary steps to create an environment that fosters the growth of this new transportation model. There's proposed legislation in Lansing in the state Senate that would help a great deal. SB 996 would allow so-called SAVE projects, SAVE being an acronym for Safe Autonomous Vehicles, in on-demand ride-sharing platforms. SAVE projects would let the public experience autonomous driving technology in a safe and controlled manner while developing data to inform further technology and policy developments. This bill could be a game changer for Michigan. We would love to set up the pilot programs needed to develop autonomous vehicles, for example, to hasten their public availability. The bill would authorize and support the type of testing and operation that we would like to see to make autonomous a reality sooner than later. Michigan needs to foster innovation and create opportunities for autonomous vehicle technology and for ride sharing. We can do it here first, and we should do it here first. Look at the city of Detroit. I work there, and in a few weeks, I'll be living there as a resident. A comprehensive, I just got to get the contractors out of the house. A comprehensive mass transit system has been lacking for all of you, as all of you know there. And think what we could do with autonomous ride sharing. Think what we could do with the TNCs today, the existing rideshare companies, to change transit in the city. It would improve the city, would create employment, and make Detroit a much better place to live and work, and obviously grow the economy. We have a long history together, General Motors and Detroit and Michigan. We have changed the world once already for the better over the last 100 years, and together we believe that we can do it again. Thank you very much.
Now welcome to the stage columnist and business associate editor for the Detroit News, Daniel Howes.
So you talked about the future, Dan. Most of the people in your company work on the traditional business. Everybody in this room drives traditional cars and trucks. Do you have problems, or what are your challenges getting people to understand that what you're talking about is real?
I'd say that in general, inside the company, people are really excited that we are putting ourselves right at the forefront of this change. So there's a really great momentum. Whether people are working on this particular part of the business or they're working on everything else, there's a lot of energy behind it.
You say that Michigan needs to be part of this. Beyond the legislation, what does it need to do as a state, as a business community, to create the environment that facilitates this? Because there are obviously other states, are there not, that are going after this kind of business, starting with California?
Yeah, I think there are clearly similar discussions going on in every state, or in many states. There's clearly similar discussions going on at the federal level. You know, the things that we're working on here are all brand new things that haven't been done before. So necessarily, people are figuring out how is this going to work, how do we participate in it. And our perspective from a General Motors point of view is we're doing everything we can to put our company at the forefront of this, and we would like nothing more than for Michigan as a state to be at the forefront of this with us so that we can work together, that we can do a lot of the development work here, create the jobs here, have the technology here, and we think there's a great opportunity to do that, and it will be a big missed opportunity if we don't.
Do you see that the mobility capability of General Motors is going to be centered in Michigan? Is it going to be in Silicon Valley? I know you've got business interests there, not a lot of employees. You expect that to grow over time, or is it going to be in other parts of the world?
We'll be growing it, and certainly in both places, California and here, but just by sheer scale of numbers and activity, this will continue to be the center of development of what we're doing. There are some very special capabilities, for example, those that we acquired with Cruise, that we're building elsewhere, but that also, even that is very integrated into the core engineering activity here.
What's General Motors learning from its relationships with Lyft, culturally speaking, Lyft and Cruise?
I think it's really interesting. Everybody is learning from everybody else, would be the first thing I would say. And it's the intersection of the rapid development software mindset with the very intense, highly validated, highly engineered hardware mindset, or hardware and technology and software mindset in the car companies, and whoever can figure out how to bring those two things together and make them work, first of all, or make them work first, I think will be really well positioned. And we're really pleased in the early days of the work we're doing with our partners out there as to how that's coming together and how that's integrating.
Do your people go into this thinking that there's not a lot of respect for what Detroit does?
I think
in California.
Part of the learnings in both ways is each constituency has learned that what the other people are doing is also really hard, right?
Right.
So that's been a two-way learning.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. You've used the term, and many people talk about it as being disruptive. I mean, the auto industry was the definition of disruptive when it sprang on the scene a century ago. In many iterations, a lot of people in this room know there have been a lot of disruptions of the auto industry. Where do you see this now? I mean, could the auto industry be in a position of being yet again a disruptor because of the melding together of technologies and how it could change all walks of life, from assisted living facilities where, maybe it won't have as many inhabitants because these cars will be able to come and pick them up and take them out and then bring them back.
Yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity. As we look across the whole landscape, we don't see any one company or entity that has all of the pieces assembled yet. And as I said in my remarks, that's very deliberately what we've been doing, over the last several months here or longer, and you've seen it come together over the last several months, is to bring together all of the pieces that we think are necessary to win to do that. So we don't see any reason why our company should not be at the forefront of this change.
You and Mary Barra and others have been on record saying that you're disrupting yourselves. And I know there have been other people that have seen that quote and say, what a bunch of BS that is. You can't, how do you disrupt yourself?
I think you said that, didn't you?
No, I don't think I did. But how do you disrupt yourself?
Well, so one option is to sit back and wait and see how all this shakes out.
Right. Which the old GM would have done.
I don't know, but we've decided to not take that path. We have decided to, frankly, adopt a principle that's been central to how we've been running the company over the last few years, which is to put the customer at the center of everything that we do. And the reason we're doing what we're doing is not because we're looking at our competitors and seeing what they're doing and reacting to that. Mm-hmm. We're doing what we're doing because we see our customers asking for something different than what they have, right? Our whole business model over the last 100 years has been built around the idea of selling a car to an individual and hoping they have a great experience, and then in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, they'll come back and buy another one. And that model will continue, we think, in large scale for a long time. But there are a rapidly growing group of customers that are telling us through their actions and their words that they want something different than that, because the cost of ownership is too high, the hassle of ownership is too high, and this is why you're seeing the change in behavior, the adoption of rideshare, and so on, particularly in urban environments, is you've got these fundamental underlying economic sort of forces at work that are causing consumer behavior to change. For example, the average car is utilized 5% of the time.
Right.
So the other 95% of the time, it's sitting somewhere depreciating, and if you're living in a big city, you're paying $1,000 a month for it to sit somewhere and depreciate 95% of the time. So is that a foundation of a strong business model, or is that something that is ripe for disruption? The other fundamental change that's happened is the opportunity cost of the time you spend driving has gone up dramatically, right? So now with connectivity, Wi-Fi in the car, phones, tablets, everything else, there are lots of other things that you could be doing while you're not driving. And if you spend any time watching other cars on the highway, people are doing these things while they are driving, right? Which is not good. But you've got this fundamental economics of a really expensive, underutilized asset. You've got this high opportunity cost of the time you spend driving, or the safety problem of being distracted in driving. And between driverless technology and a sharing business model, you can solve both of those equations and therefore offer a cheaper, better experience to people at a lower cost. And fundamentally, that's what we're already seeing through rideshare. So going back to your original question, what we are doing is about meeting the needs of what our customers are looking for and where they are likely to go.
You said to me in a recent interview that that the company's making about $1 billion a month and you're not getting any credit for it. You've been very, meaning the company, you have been very aggressive this year making a lot of these investments. What is going to have to happen for the investment thesis on companies like General Motors to change in the marketplace?
I think it's pretty early days on where the future is going in terms of the level of visibility that the investment community has into where we are and what we're doing, we generally, the industry, and all the other potential players here. So I think it's too soon for people to say, well, okay, I can see where this is going and I'm going to ascribe a lot of value to that. But we will obviously be proving that out as we go. In terms of the core business, business is pretty good globally. We've been delivering results, year over year for the last few years. And our goal with that is obviously to keep doing that, keep delivering the profit growth, the top line growth that we've been delivering, margin expansion. We've been very deliberate about where we're deploying capital and where we're not deploying capital. You've seen us choose to not participate in some markets because we don't see a long-term return there. And so it's a new level of discipline that we've brought over the last few years. So we're going to keep doing everything we're doing on the core business. We're going to keep advancing our agenda and plans on the new business model, if you like. And sooner or later, the stock price will reflect that.
To what extent do you think that the major players on the tech side and on the auto side may become predatory and looking for opportunities to actually acquire one another to the extent that's possible? In some cases, it's harder to do financially, or are we in a period now where it's more about cooperation, it's more about collaboration? It's that Google or Apple doesn't need to own FCA, they need a deal with FCA. Mm-hmm. As an example. Right. Not getting you to comment on FCA, purely, but just in terms of the dynamic. Is it more collaborative now?
I think it's back to my earlier point, which is I think there's a growing realization, I don't think it's fully matured yet, that whatever you're doing is difficult, but also what the other guy is doing is difficult. And I think that the further everyone gets into this, the more they realize that to be true, and that therefore, whether it's collaboration, acquisition, partnership, alliance, there's lots of different ways to get about it, that those there isn't anyone who has the whole suite of capabilities. And so therefore you will see things like what we did with Lyft, what we did with Cruise, what we're doing internally in terms of our own development capability. And since we made those moves earlier in the year, you've seen others do similar things as recently as last week.
To what extent is the strategy motivated by a fear, for lack of a better words, of revenue perishability, that there are segments out there that are going to get whacked hard by this trend? And to what extent is it really about opportunity? One of your competitors likes to talk about the $5.4 trillion transportation services market globally, and you want to get a piece of that because it's there, right? How do you look at it, that balance?
I go back to the customer comment, which is if our customers are going to a new place, then we need to decide whether we're going to be there for them or not. And we're doing what we're doing because that's where we see our customers going and where we see those fundamental economics sort of pushing them to. So is it an opportunity, or is it pursuit of an opportunity or avoidance of a threat? From our perspective, it's very much pursuit of an opportunity. We see the change happening first and foremost in the urban environment because that's where the density is highest, the cost of ownership is the highest, and all the things that exacerbate the question over car ownership are sort of greatest, the effects are greatest there. It so happens that at General Motors, we make a lot of our money and sell a lot of our vehicles outside of the urban environment. So we make a lot of money selling pickup trucks, we make a lot of money selling SUVs, and so on. And even a lot of our car sales tend to be more outside of the urban environment. So if you're looking at from a GM perspective, we see it very much as a net opportunity for us to take advantage of change that's happening in a place where, frankly, our business is not as strong as it is in some other places.
What are the segments that are going to be hit the hardest as you look at it today by this trend?
I'm not sure it's necessarily particular vehicle segments. I think if you look at pickups as an example, that's a segment that will not be affected, anytime soon in our view. But if you look at, it's more what's the geographic areas that will be most affected first, and it will tend to be those places where car ownership is most expensive and most inconvenient, starting in urban centers. But as you go out, beyond that, we'll see that begin to unfold.
Where does Michigan rank in terms of creating the environment as you look at it today?
I think we're right on the precipice of Michigan, making some decisions that could make this a great environment to do what we want to do. It is very much a moving landscape out there. Lots of states are looking at, how do we attract this kind of activity and what are the ingredients for success? How do we set up the right safety protocols and do the right thing for consumers, but encourage the innovation? And so that discussion's happening. It's happening at the federal level. It's happening at the state level in a lot of states. I think that the discussions have advanced well here. There's a opportunity around some proposed legislation to really push that over the goal line. We'd like to see that happen.
Right.
And so we think there's a lot of good reasons why Michigan can and should be at the forefront of this, not least of which is it's our home state. We're very, very serious about this, very committed, and we'd love to be doing a lot of the work here.
What about the role of the federal government? I would think you'd want to have one set of federal standards and regulations for driverless technology.
Yeah, I think that's, again, it's all in sort of under discussion, I would say, at this stage. Obviously, the more consistent perspective we can have, the better, we think, for a lot of reasons. But at the same time, there are states that very much are demonstrating that they want to be at the forefront of this. And again, I think Michigan's sort of just about right there and can push this over the line.
And the American Center for Mobility that the governor's been talking about and others have been talking about is something you guys are supportive of? And
yeah.
It's not in conflict of kind of your view of the world and how you want to go forward?
Not at all. We're very supportive of that. We've expressed our support for that. We think that activity should happen. It should happen here in Michigan. And there's no reason why we shouldn't make that be the case.
Does General Motors have the pieces that it needs for this? I mean, you've done several deals. You've launched Maven, Cruise, Transaction, Lyft. Do you feel like you have the pieces, or are you still on the hunt for other kinds of technology and capability that you don't quite yet have?
We think we have most of what we need at this stage. I think the transition and the development of this change is going to go not just over months and years, but frankly, decades as it rolls out. So, and we're at the very early stages of that. But I'd say for right now, for the plans we have in front of us, we have all the pieces that we need.
So while we've got a little bit of time left, you're a big driver and racing fan. How did it go at Indy for Chevrolet?
Not quite as well as we had planned for.
But I thought you said that the engines performed pretty well.
Yeah, it was a great race, and if anyone here was down there, but the atmosphere, the crowd, it was the 100th running. It was an enormous crowd there. And it was just a really great weekend, but not as great as the weekend that we will have this coming weekend.
Yes, you have high expectations for that?
So we're super excited about Belle Isle, and Chevrolet is going to put in a very strong showing there, I can assure
Are
you.
you expecting another record year this year
Of
in
what?
terms of in sales and the market? Are you seeing it cooling off a little bit?
I'd say we've said that we see things sort of leveling out more or less. We feel pretty good about the U.S. economy. We feel pretty good about the U.S. consumer. We don't see any sort of fundamental imbalances that look like they're going to emerge here. But at the same time, we've been in a recovery, slow, steady recovery for a number of years here, and we're at a pretty healthy level in the market. So we're quite happy with where things are.
Good. Dan Ammann, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.